Chapter 27. Pawns. 3 coins. That was all the money they had left. After purchasing one small soda for the 3 of them to share. To make matters worse, they were ancient coins, no longer legal tender anywhere in the world, let alone Vegas. On the bright side, the coins were gold and worth a fortune. How to turn them into cash? There was the rub. A pawn shop. He came to Max Ernst in a flash. He'd never been to one. He wasn't sure he'd ever even seen one, but he'd read about them in detective novels. I mean, like in the movies where the criminal sells off stolen goods, and then the police come looking for him at the shop where he bought them? Asked Yoji? Right, they're called fencing, said Max Ernst knowledgeably. Only this time we're the criminals. Great idea, said Cass. I've been in lots of pawn shops. Her friends looked at her in surprise. My grandfather's had an antique store, remember? Cass stepped up to the place. I bet Las Vegas has a bunch of pawn shops. All these people going broke. So she's gesturing disdainfully to the crowds of tourists and gamblers around them. They were walking down the famous Las Vegas Strip, which was built like walking through an atlas come to life, with cartoon versions of Paris, Venice, and New York right next to one another. Not to mention hotel roller coasters, white tigers, wave machines, and life-size pirate galleons. And all you can eat prime ribs for less than $5. All lit up by enough light bulbs to service all 7 continents. Do you think we should go in the direction of the Eiffel Tower or the Statue of Liberty? Asked Max Ernst. I think we should get off the street, said Cass. When you're walking down the strip, it's easy to think that Las Vegas is flashy casinos, fancy hotels, and oversized carnival rides. But only a short distance away, it's possible to find a very different sort of place. On the block where they now found themselves, drunks were lying on the sidewalks and uncollected garbage spilled out of cans. The buildings looked old and uncared for. Are we sure this is the best place to look, Max Ernst? By the sound of it, we're far from sure. I spent half my life going into pawn shops with my grandfathers. This is exactly the right kind of place, insisted Cass. Still, even she seemed a little nervous as she looked down the block. Suddenly her smiled and shook her head. Look, who's here? She pointed to a man leaning against the store window several feet ahead of them. He looked like a bum or a hobo, and he was wearing a familiar stained fisherman's hat and an old pigeon feather stuck out of it. Owen, when did you get here? Cass stepped up to the hobo, grinning wide. This time, finally, she had recognized him before he'd revealed himself. You can stand up now and stop pretending. We found you. The hobo looked at her. My name is Mark. Not that that's any of your business. The kids looked more closely. There was no resemblance to Owen. Cass's ears reddened in embarrassment. Oh, sorry, I thought I recognized your hat. This hat is mine. I stole it fair and square. You go steal your own. Cass nodded and hurried along. She was surprised how disappointed she was. It had been comforting to think that Owen had come to Las Vegas in disguise to look after them, as he had so many times before. At last, there was nobody but themselves. The first 3 pawn shops they tried were a bust, which was colonially way to say that pawn shop owners refused to give Cass money for her coins. The first 2 assumed the coins were fake. The third, that they were stolen. Nobody believed that Cass inherited them. Luckily, there were more pawn shops in Las Vegas than there were gas stations, and luckily, too, there are much stranger things in Las Vegas than 3 children trying to sell rare gold coins. Not the third time, but the 4th time was a charm. The poor man's rich in love wedding chapel and pawn shop was a 2-for-1 business topped by an old neon sign. Every time the neon blinked, a heart would light up and a 50s style jitterbug couple would kiss beneath it. The glass storefront was covered with so many plaques and posters that she couldn't see inside. A loud buzzer sounded when they'd walked into the pawn shop, and the store was crowded with everything from rifles to saxophones to old jukeboxes playing songs that seemed to be about as old jukeboxes. Through an open window, they could see the back room and a makeshift wedding chapel decorated with plastic flowers and a pair of fake lovebirds in dusty cages. A sweaty man in a purple robe and black square hat walked out and gave the 3 kids a curious glance. The name tag on his chest read Pablo, the pawnbroker priest. A little young to be getting married, aren't we? Well, I ain't prejudiced. Long as you got a note from your parents, he winked. Now which one of you boys is the lucky guy? Neither, said Maximus quickly, his face turning red. That's not why we're here, said Yoji, whose face was turning a matching color. Yeah, as if I would ever marry either one of them, said Cass with much sarcasm as she could muster. She wouldn't have admitted it, but she was just a littlest bit hurt by the outcry in which her friends denied that they were marrying her. Maximus studied the pawnbroker priest. Hey, isn't that a graduation robe? And that hat, too. The class had just ordered their graduation outfits, so he was well aware what they looked like. So the last priest who came in here had a winning streak and brought back his whole outfit. This is the only robe I got. Now, what can I do for you? Cass reached into her backpack, pulling out her 3 gold coins. The pawnbroker priest laughed as he saw the coins. Where'd you get these? From some pirate show down the strip? It screwed up his face, glowing like a pirate. Arg, matey. It's real gold, I swear, said Cass. Is that right? May I? He took the coin from her and felt the weight. They feel real, I'll give you that. He looked at them from underneath magnifying glass. Very high quality workmanship. If you see a counterfeit coin, it's as good as these often are. The pawnbroker priest took the porcelain tile from his shelf. Not much of a touchstone, but as usually works. He rubbed the coin on the tile to see what kind of mark it would make. A touchstone is a small tablet of dark stone, such as a fieldstone or a slate. It's used for assaying, i.e. judging the composition of precious metals. Drawing a line of gold on a touchstone leaves a visible trace, because different gold alloys have different colors. The line reveals how pure the piece of gold is. In everyday speech, a touchstone may refer to anything by which other things of its kind are measured. For example, when it comes to literary genius, the book of Pseudonymous Bosch proved a touchstone. Huh, he said nonchalantly. Then he tried to scratch the window with the coin. There were no scratches. Huh, he said again. Is that good, or is it supposed to scratch? Asked Maximus. He didn't answer, but the kids could tell he was impressed. Finally, he reached under the counter and pulled a magnet off the small refrigerator. When he held the magnet to the coin didn't move. Huh, he said one more time. He bent over the counter and studied Cass and her friends closely as he had the coins. Finally, he placed the coins carefully back in the square of cloth on the counter and offered his verdict. All right, so maybe the coins are gold. The 3 tried not to react, but the pawnbroker priest bristled at the slightest stir, attuned as he was to the smallest detail of any transaction. Maybe, but that doesn't mean they're really 500 years old. If they are, they're obviously not yours. They've got to be either hot or fake, or both. But I like you guys, so I'll take them. Also, 3 gold coins is good luck for a pawnbroker. He pointed to the design on the store window. It was the same as the design they'd seen on the other stores. What they thought were 3 gold berries hanging on the branches were actually 3 gold coins, an ancient symbol of the pawn shop. I've only got enough cash for 1 coin, but I can give you checks for the others. They shook their heads. Checks won't do them any good. After a good 10 minutes of haggling, during which the kids tried unsuccessfully to get him to give them more money, the pawnbroker priest took 1 coin and gave them the amount approximation equal to 1/10 of its true value, which, as it turned out, was quite a lot in cash. You want a bag for that? The man asked as Cass tried unsuccessfully to stuff the money into her backpack. No, it's fine, she said, as $100 bills floated down to the ground, crumpling and rippling beneath her feet. The man just shook his head and reached behind the counter, grabbed a small Ziploc bag, snack size. Cass looked from the bag to the pile of bills. The man sighed and shook his head again. Painfully as it was to part with all the nice green cash, and pulled out a larger bag, the quarter size. Maximus gestured with his hands full of green. All right, the pawnbroker priest pulled out a gallon-sized bag. On the house. Now get out of here before I change my mind and call the cops or your parents.